My name is Sophia Alam. I am a student at UAB. I am the president for Students for Human Rights, and I am also a Muslim.
My name is Tyler Goodwin. I am a student here at UAB, and I am a member of the LGBTQ community.
I'm Zoe Zaslowski. I'm getting my Master's of History at UAB, and I'm also Jewish.
My name is Erica Webb. I'm a reproductive rights activist, and I'm a student at UAB.
My name is Charles Coleman. I'm a senior international studies major here at UAB, and I'm Black.
My name is Rachel, and I am a student at UAB. I also work as a barista at the UAB Starbucks and Stern Library, and I am affiliated with UAB's Disabilities Office.
My name is Milena. I am a music tech student here at UAB, and I'm an immigrant.
Start when I'm ready. As a native to the South, I have always been proud of the fact that all my years living in the South, I have never been confronted in a way that has made me feel attacked or marginalized. Whether that is because I live a sheltered life or because I have always been extremely lucky, I don't know. What I can share is the night our president-elect became president of the United States. I was studying in my dining room when I heard a car passing by with a couple of teenage boys screaming. They paused by my house, I heard some pops, and then quickly they swerved away. When I walked outside to inspect the noise, I saw that there were paintballs scattered and shot at my car. That was my first time of experiencing hate crime. From then on, it's been small things such as dirty looks at the supermarket or someone murmuring "fucking terrorist" under their breath while I'm visiting my library. I feel hurt and angry. Hurt a country that I consider my home, I now have to prove my loyalty to. Angry that I constantly have to prove my normalcy to other people to prove I'm not dangerous.
Growing up in Alabama was not the easiest thing for a queer kid. I remember being tormented by my classmates in middle school and being afraid of what the next day would hold. I was scared to get off of the bus each morning and grateful to get back on it in the afternoon. Still to this day, I feel like I'm marginalized on a regular basis. My sexuality may not be apparent right away, but as soon as it becomes so, the way that people look at me is different. It's not hard to tell when someone's comfortability is interrupted by your presence. It makes me feel lesser, unequal, and inhuman. I still find myself putting on fronts in areas where I feel unsure of or unsafe, in fear that I may be ridiculed or even attacked. I'm affected today by the taunting sight of heterosexual couples doing simple things like holding hands, knowing that I can't do the same thing with my boyfriend. I want to fight for a future where queer youth can grow up knowing that being different is okay, unlike I did. And I want queer youth to feel human growing up, unlike I did.
It was when I was 6 in elementary school that one of my classmates asked me if I was Jewish, to which I answered yes. In response, she told me I'm going to hell because I killed Jesus. This was news to me. I went home and burdened my parents with a brigade of questions, starting with who is Jesus, and then why do we hate him, and also why didn't you tell me we were going to hell? I don't think my parents were shaken by this, but they did carefully explain to me what it meant to be Jewish for the first time. Since then, I understood being part of a marginalized group was a full-time job, but not in a bad way. I was always correcting stereotypes and assumptions, and many times while attending Prattville High School and even UAB, it seemed like I was the only one of my classmates that cared or took the time to understand current issues that face Jewish people inside the United States and elsewhere. However, among the intolerant comments, there were, and are, many more questions that asked and sparked important conversations, which I feel is the only way to help marginalized groups feel incorporated. Genuine curiosity fosters understanding.
We don't trust women. Society says women are precious treasures, pure and protected. But there's a much darker view running deep in the sweat glands of history that still seeps out, masked with an overwhelming stench of delicate flowers. Aristotle said that women are more void of shame or self-respect, more false of speech, more deceptive than men, incapable of reason. Pythagoras said, there is good principle which created order, light, and man, and an evil principle which created chaos, darkness, and woman. Witches, bitches, nasty vixens, save us from ourselves. You are prescribed birth control to correct your cycle, this curse that evil Eve placed on you, and your doctor tells you to keep it hidden deep inside your purse. Someone might see and think you're having sex. Seductress, slut, stretched out, used up. She's pregnant? That's what she gets for having sex. She must have been stupid about it. Aristotle also said that in procreation, men take on the active role of bringing life, while women take on the passive role, the mere incubators of the next generation. You watch on CNN as a room of all men sign a bill to protect women's health. Men must make the decisions for women because women are too weak, too unreasonable to make the decisions for themselves. If women have too much knowledge of, too much pride in, too much control over their own bodies, they'll destroy the very fabric of society itself.
My mother's words echo in my ears to this day. Son, you will have to be the best at whatever you decide to do because people will automatically think of you as incompetent and unqualified simply because you're black. The only way you'll earn their respect is by being the best at what you do. So after I began working, I faced my own struggles with marginalization. I remember applying for a sales job with a Fortune 500 company. And while I had the experience required, I was initially passed over for another candidate. And only just a few weeks later, I received a call from the manager offering me the same job that I was originally passed over for. Now, this confused me, but I was happy to take the offer. My team was comprised of all young white college graduates. I quickly found out that I was the only African American that had been hired in the last year. I was given the worst territory, had little assistance, and one of my team members told me that the only reason I received the offer was because the person they hired before me actually stole office equipment, and our manager was under the gun to fill the position with anybody he could find. In fact, after a visit from the regional vice president, he told my boss that there was no way I would make it in this industry, and he needed to find someone else who looked like the rest of the team. I was left out of team meetings, after-hours gatherings, and received fewer leads than any of my counterparts. However, the words of my mother were still with me. Understanding my situation, I decided I needed to put my head down and work harder and smarter than anybody else. Within a few months, I managed to sell more units than my entire team combined had moved in the last year. And within a year, I was the #1 salesperson in our region. However, once I wanted to move from sales into management, I was still passed over time and time again for other colleagues who were less qualified but looked more the part.
I was being dropped off at a friend's house. She lived in a gated community with the security guard post and all. Primarily rich and white neighborhood. As we stopped in front of the visiting gate, an older white man comes out and, after taking a good look at her beat-up car, begins to ask questions. I'm sure they were standard questions that were required as part of his duty, but after taking one look at my mother, the tone he chose was completely demeaning. My mother holds a doctorate in public health. She's a professor at a university. Though we are from Brazil, she has hardly an accent when she speaks English. So tell me why this man has so much trouble understanding her when he answers her questions. I've been to my friend's house before while carpooling with another friend of mine. We ran into the same guard, but because my white friend was driving a newer modeled car, he had no questions or comments besides, "Where are you headed?" But not with my mom. This man begins to ask her to repeat her answers over and over. A stop that's supposed to take less than a minute ends up taking around 10. She was hurt, and for a very good reason. She told me how she felt blatantly racially profiled and that he thought she was a maid, which there's nothing wrong with being a maid, but it's a stereotypical Latina job. But as I kept thinking about it, I was more angry at the guard for thinking it was necessary. You can't really tell I'm Latina until I tell you. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the fiery Latina trope on TV. And then you start thinking, well, what happens when I do tell them I'm Latina or Brazilian? Like, are they going to purposefully look for that in me now, or is it not going to matter?
I was diagnosed at age 7 with ADD and ADHD. I had very bad and mischievous behavior as a child. I do not agree with marginalization. Most people do not even realize that I have a disability. However, I have seen marginalization when I volunteered at the Exceptional Foundation and went to high school. Just because someone is slower at learning and does not retain does not mean they are stupid. I have seen many of the kids and adults be successful bowlers, baseball players, and writers. My boyfriend's daughter has sickle syndrome, and all of the kids assume that she cannot learn or play the games that they do. Every time we take her out, they take her turn and do not let her play. I have another friend who was not born disabled, but at age 9 lost his leg to cancer. He has traveled the states playing wheelchair basketball for years. Everyone is destined for great things, and nobody should be left out or left behind because they are not society's normal.
I'm a firm believer that education and exposure eradicate fear. Read, listen, interact with others as much as you can, and hopefully we can all come to an understanding.
I'm not the only Jew at UAB, but for years it has felt that way. However, the more I talk about it, the more questions I answer, the quicker Judaism becomes part of the community and no longer a foreign concept that incites hatred and fear.
I love concepts such as Have a Donut and Meet a Muslim, or open panel discussions inviting all audiences to understand and learn more about marginalized communities. It's actions and events like these that I believe we can bring in the most changes and break this social barrier.
I want to break this social barrier by normalizing the LGBTQ community, because even though we may identify differently from the status quo, we all want to feel loved, accepted, and human.
Today, I think more than ever, it's important for us to recognize that some people still deny the fact that this issue exists. But the more we talk, write, and create films about the issue of marginalization, people will finally accept that it's a real problem. When we exclude people from the decision and creative-making process, we all lose. At the same time, minorities need to ensure that we're doing our part, holding ourselves to a higher standard so that we can continue paving the road of inclusion for those who come after us, so they can benefit.